Hello and welcome to today's video. So today I'm reading from my dream journal that I've been keeping since the 12th of February. So I'm going to read out some of my dreams from kind of the last week or so, kind of through mid-February. Dream session, February 12th. Dream 1. I was in a large open space and there were rows upon rows of chairs, watching a woman perform a talk. The space was very open, however, and I can't quite remember what the background was, but it appeared that the setup for the talk made up just a small part of the overall space, as if there was a larger space behind me. I took a seat at the back. It was a talk on an intelligent, complex subject. What subject exactly, I'm not sure, but I began to follow attentively. I had a feeling that there was an importance of being here, like there was something more to gain than just attending a talk. Perhaps it was almost like I was setting up to try get a new job or career or something. It's hard to really remember, or perhaps it just wasn't clear during the dream, as it often isn't. She continued to speak, and I took in the information. I think at one point I was taking notes. For a moment it appeared that she wrote my name on a piece of paper on the stage. I think she was referencing how I was paying attention well, and it was a good example of that. But for a moment I thought she was pointing me out to say that I wasn't focusing on what she was saying. A moment later my name vanished and she was back to the main subject. Dream 2. I was at the bottom of a slide that led up to a group of people. It was a bizarre mesh of an intellectual event of people gathering for serious business and actual slides, basically. So it was kind of like how you would have, say, something kind of like in Google in real life, but the slides seemed to be far more of a dominant feature in the place than you would have in real life. So it was a weird sort of mix of things. So I climbed up the slide, but with my dream logic, this was a sensible approach, and going down the slide was not. I reached the people at the top who were gathered, but also noticed another person climbing up below me. And for some reason, I was kind of wary or thought that what they were doing was they were going up the slide the wrong way. So I guess the dream logic just kind of switched there. Later, I was walking around the facility and it looked more like an open lobby area. I think I was kind of in a different dream at this stage, possibly, or kind of merged into another dream. The design was kind of overall circular in its shape, and it was like a shopping centre of sorts or something close to that. I approached a man who I recognised, and he also recognised someone else there who was a regular attendee at matches of Shelbourne FC, so that's the Irish football team, whose games I used to regularly attend, and I hope to go back after the pandemic calms down. It's safe to do so. Dream session, February 13th, Dream 1. I held in my hand a cable with a yellow, red and white wire. It was part of a device that could create a game console experience, but the end part of the cable was not compatible with the TV. It was as if a SCART lead for an Xbox or a PlayStation had been replaced by a long cable, albeit the end part was not the SCART and more closely resembled the opposite end that would actually go into the console itself, if that makes any sense. So, as you can tell, this was dream logic. I was standing by a TV indoors in a room that somewhat resembled a classroom, although it kind of seemed more like I was inside an airport at the same time. It was a weird sort of mix. It then occurred to me that I could put the three coloured wires in separately. So I took off the end part of the cable they were connected to and then went to the side of the TV. In went the red and yellow wire with the spots of these wires in a vertical line next to each other. To the left of them was a white wire. It's possibly kind of in the middle point, but in a of where the middle of vertically, but then to a horizontal direction to the left. Though I can't remember for sure. Next, something came on the TV, and the TV was set to HDMI 2. It was as if the game was appearing, but in black and white, and it wasn't fully functioning. For a moment I thought it needs to be on HDMI 1. But then I realised there was an option on the TV asking to set up the game, so I selected OK with a TV remote, I presume, although I don't specifically remember picking up the remote. The game came on. Suddenly people appeared around me. There were like these two sort of bouncer-like men present. They were disgruntled with the appearance of the game and questioned the legality of it. I think they were law enforcement of some kind, but that's as much of the dream as I can recall. Dream session, February 14th, Dream 1. I was in what I thought was the corridor of a hotel, albeit it somewhat resembled being on a ferry without it being clear or specified that was the case. I don't recall recognising that the actor Donald Sutherland was in one of the rooms, or maybe he was in the corridor outside the room, I can't quite remember. But then I was in a whole different scene in which I was on social media and realised that Sutherland, who in my dream world had acted in a previous short film of mine and was now famous. So I wanted to compile a post of an image of Sutherland in my short film next to one of him in a newer, more famous film to show that he had acted in my project and was now famous. And I think I wanted to put it on my Facebook page of some kind. Dream session, February 15th, Dream 1. I dreamt that I was in an airport, so it's quite a common occurrence now. Outside a windowed side to the left was an aircraft. The dream somehow related to the South Korea and North Korea, but an alternate history in which Korea was split by North and South coincidentally, as it had been in our timeline, and I was aware of being an alternate history and that the map division was not accurate to, how the North and South is divided in our timeline. The North and South were visually present in the form of people or perhaps a person, I can't quite recall, in different locations of the lobby/departure area of the airport I was in. Later I recall watching an airplane landing with a South Korean flag, and then I realised that in an alternate history it should be something different. Hence again, like in previous dream, I was kind of lucid at this stage. As you can tell, this is more of a bizarre dream. It blended the abstract and literal and alternative and real in a strange, confusing manner. Dream 2. This next dream was dark and quite unpleasant. I was in the living room of my home, so this is another dream that was actually set in a real place. There were two dogs present, and another person in the room was about to cut off the dog's head with an axe. So yeah, it was quite disturbing, and this is a nightmare basically. So it was very unsettling and upsetting. I tried to comfort the other dog that was near me, while the first dog was, he was struck with the axe, and the dog started squealing in pain, and the dog near me on the sofa looked up in fear, and presumably the person was going to continue axing the dog. So yeah, that was quite, not very fun dream at all. I think it's because I saw some videos about dogs being attacked by wild animals, so yeah, I didn't like that dream at all. Dream session, February 16th. Dream 1. I was walking down a street I knew from real life. There was a person ahead of me and a person behind me. The person behind me then began to cross a field that was just to the right of the footpath and sort of was kind of overtaking me on the right, if that makes sense. So I looked at them for a moment by looking across, and they had relatively colourful clothes on, and they looked quite distorted, almost sort of like they were more square or something, and they didn't really look like a real person. It was quite odd. Dream 2. I recall another dream that night in which I was on my phone to someone and they were telling me about the score of a football match. I believe it was between Middlesbrough and Huddersfield, and it being 3-0 or 3-1 to one team or another, probably Huddersfield, although I can't quite remember. I noticed in the following day, IRL, these two teams were actually playing, so I suspect that I had seen that they were due to play prior to the dream, otherwise that would be truly an incredible coincidence. In real life, the match finished 2-1 to Middlesbrough. The dream was weird as I was on the phone to one person, but then another was on the line from another phone, and it just got confusing, but no one seemed to know who was talking to whom, so, but then they kind of cleared up a bit and it became more clear who was talking to who. Dream 3. I arrived at a local shopping centre, which is close to where I live in real life. However, next to it was a giant building titled Crash Bandicoot. I think there was even a giant image of Crash Bandicoot too. It was a store basically dedicated to the character/video game from the 90s. I was eager to go in and take a look, and as far as I can remember, I got out of the car with another person and talked about wanting to head in and take a look. I then found myself approaching the shopping centre that was next to it, and for whatever reason I took a detour and headed in the side entrance of the shopping centre. So I guess per dream logic, I suddenly forgot where I was meant to be going. As I entered, I had an interaction with a stranger, but I can't quite remember how it went. I went into the shopping centre and saw a variety of shops. Toward the end of the lobby area was the entrance to what in real life is a food store, but in this dream I think it was more of a clothes shop. The entrance, I think, was covered by a sort of velvety blanket that kind of covered the whole entrance, and it was like sort of like it was loose at the bottom, so you could kind of push your way through. And so I headed over and went in. I was then suddenly elsewhere in the shopping centre. I think I walked through the clothes shop and ended up in a cafe of some sort. But it was one of those cafes that were kind of built into the shopping centre, so there was no like closed space. It was just part of it. Some stuff happened during the scene, but I can't quite remember what. Before I knew it, I was outside the shopping centre and heading towards the Crash Bandicoot store. Just as Donald Sutherland paid a visit to my dream a few nights prior, another celebrity guest appeared. As either the main actor or character, I couldn't quite tell from the recent Netflix show The Queen's Gambit. But it was weird because it was like she was just meant to be some regular Irish person and not the actress or American character that the actress played. And I think I became somewhat lucid at the dream at this point. So I think I was kind of half awake then. I woke up from my alarm then, I set it a little forward and then tried to imagine myself next to the Crash Bandicoot store. I imagined a few other things and found I was almost falling into the dream right away. It was one of those weird sort of half asleep moments. And it was kind of fascinating because I could sort of visualize and see things very quickly after closing my eyes again. I think I was technically awake, you might say, at this stage, but then I quickly fell back asleep. So here we go. Dream 4. I approached the Crash Bandicoot store's front entrance. I was excited to go in, but then my alarm went off and I never got to see the inside of it. So that was that. So That would have been cool to visit, but I never got to go. So, dream session, February 17th. So for February 17th, I remembered some dreams that morning, but I forgot to write them down. And by the evening time, I couldn't recall any of the details. So if you're keeping a dream journal, make sure to write the details down early in the day, preferably as soon as possible. Dream session, February 19th. Dream 1. I was in an airport and contemplating getting on a plane, or at least I was in a building that somewhat resembled an airport, but basically I was due to get a flight in a few hours. My fear of flying, which is a real issue I deal with, came to the fore as I felt a rush of fear thinking of getting on a plane and the idea of it going up into the air after takeoff. I felt somewhat panicked, and I think I might have even fallen down to the ground, and I kind of was freaking out, thinking about how I really didn't want to get on the plane, like I was desperate not to. And this sort of dream is actually quite recurring for me, so because I have a fear of flying, so it's been particularly acute in recent years. So that's yeah, a recurring dream. So that's it for this video, but stay tuned for more, and I'll do more similar videos and more podcasts about all sorts of topics in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good weekend.